everybody. Welcome to the L-5 podcast. We are back with another full feature TV show review, we'll say. Again, this is the month of October, and we're doing spooky, creepy things. So we picked another TV show, and this was my pick. So I picked the new TV show that is on Shudder called Creepshow.
You gonna tell me what this is all about?
Yes, absolutely.
And actually, this show came out in 2019. They are now on season 3, I believe, currently. And this is based off of a film that came out back in the 1980s. It's kind of like Tales from the Crypt, kind of feel to it, where you have a crypt keeper who is telling these stories that came from a comic book. And this is someone who has these comic books that have little miniature stories in it. So we watched the first 2 episodes, and the way that they're broken down is each episode is like 2 mini episodes. So the episode is probably about 30 to 40 minutes. And each one had about 15 minutes to tell a story that came from this comic book. So in the first episode, we have the story Gray Matter and the short story The House of the Head. In Gray Matter, it's about we're probably gonna spoil some things as we go along.
Warning.
But basically, in the first story of the first episode in Gray Matter, it's about this small little town that has a hurricane coming, and you have a sheriff and a chief of police and a doctor. I think he was a doctor, who are at this little shop, and a boy comes in and he's scared, and he's trying to get some alcohol for his father, and his father has a drinking problem. And basically, he tells him that he wants him to go to his house to check out his father, see if he's okay. And so the chief of police and the we'll say doctor or detective go with him to his house and check on his father. And all kinds of creepiness and crawly stuff starts to ensue as the little boy is there with the store owner or the person who works in the store and is telling the story about his father and how he got there. Ultimately, we see some creepy stuff going on with his father and some pretty monstrous types of things that happen. The second part of the episode is a short story called The House of the Head, where a little girl has one of those giant doll playhouses that has the little characters in it and figurines in there. And she's, playing house, we'll say. They're called the Smiths. I think that's what they were called. Yeah. The Smiths.
I was like,
and
nothing.
They're called the Smiths. And she's playing with them. And then all of a sudden, a head pops up on one of the shelves in the house. Don't know where this thing came from. And she's just freaking out. And over time, the head does things to these little figurines and moves around the different places. And she's trying to figure out how this happened and how to get rid of this head that is causing mischiefs with these little figurines. So without really deeply going into it, point by point exactly what's going on in these 2 episodes, in the first episode, these 2 mini short stories, I will say that the structure of the show I actually liked. It was a lot like the Tales from the Crypt, where you have gore and then you have some little comedy bits, but not many. But I think that the structure of it was really fun. We got to see 2 people in there that we had seen in other shows with Tobin from Saw and Giancarlo Esposito from Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. Really love him.
Adrienne Barbeau.
And Adrienne Barbeau, yeah, who was in Maude, right?
Yeah, she was the daughter in Maude and Swamp Thing, and she was classic horror, but she was also in the original Creepshow movie.
Oh, see, so I didn't see the original Creepshow movie.
Yeah.
But I remember seeing the case for it in like the Blockbusters and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But
I always look at her. She always reminds me of Loretta Lynn.
I could see that.
I'm just amazed that she just doesn't seem like she's aging at all.
Mm-hmm.
She just seems
she sure doesn't.
So young still. And it's like, how is she still so young and I'm so old now? I don't get it.
Yeah, so we get some big name stars, I think, in this show. I thought that was kind of interesting, and I wanted to see if they were just going to be in one episode, or if they're going to come maybe have reoccurring. Maybe they come back in another episode where they're playing a different character but the same actor, right? Or does that character come back and tie into something else? But I really enjoyed the first episode. I thought it was pretty creepy and pretty gross. I mean, there was some pretty gory things, especially in that first half of the first episode with the gray matter. But I really enjoyed both of them. What did you guys think? Stacey, what did you think about the first episode of Creepshow?
Well, first, when you said Creepshow, and that's why I said like the picture, is this the right one? Which one? Because whatever, I was, I guess, confusing with the movie. Because I was like, I thought this came out years and years and years ago. Right. And then when it says like 2019, I was like, well, is there a remake? Because I could have sworn it was a TV show and not a movie. Mm-hmm. But then once we started watching it and I saw who was in it, and what was his name? Giancarlo
Esposito.
The guy who plays Mandalorian. Yeah. Esposito, yes.
Yes.
And when I was on, it's like, he's on here? And I know because he's in so many different things, as he's rarely a main character, but once you recognize him, you're like, oh gosh, there he is. He's in this show. And the first one, I definitely was getting the Tales from the Crypt vibes. So when you said Creepshow, I was not really thrilled about it, because when I was a kid, I could not watch anything like those kind of shows. I mean, I couldn't watch the Thriller video because I would be like too creeped out. So, which I'm a long way from that. So, but I was like, when you think of certain things, so when I used to hear the Tales from the Crypt thing, I was like, it's time to turn it off. No, I'm sorry, it's not even, it's time to walk up to the TV and turn it off. We didn't have a remote. So it was one of those things that when you said, I was like, oh, I'm not sure if I'm going to like it, because just that whole thing of when I was a kid and being that scared, and then seeing this, I wasn't as scared, but some of this stuff was kind of haunting to me in a way. I was trying to figure out by looking at the first 2 episodes, and I actually started watching part of the third. Was there a theme or something in each episode? Because it had two kind of mini stories in each episode. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I was trying to figure out, was there something to it? And I was thinking the first one maybe about children and the point of view of the child. Because it does talk about in that episode, the first one is the boy talking about what's going on with his father. And I kind of had sympathy for him, but kind of didn't, because I was like, you let those 2 little girls to their death. I was like, you little shit. But so part of it was feeling like a little sympathy for the kid, but part of it wasn't. The only person I recognized was Esposito. I'm not saying it right, and the lady, the lady who owned the little general store. So I was thinking that was what it is, a small town, and you had the little general store that had sold everything. But then the second episode, and I still thought maybe it was an older episode or older, that came out years ago. But then I saw the second story, and the little girl who's in that, I was like, that's the little girl from Walking Dead. She's still a little girl. So this can't be, this has to be pretty more recent, because she's still a little girl. She's playing Judith in The Walking Dead.
Oh, I didn't even
the baby
know
that
should
never happened.
Well, baby, now she's a sword wielding little kid, who was raised, So, but she's still a child in that, so it's like the same girl. And I was like, okay, she's a little bit older, but she's still a kid. So it's like, it hasn't been that many years. And her acting in The Walking Dead is very good when you see it. And then I was like, oh gosh, she's been good. She's a pretty good little actress there. Yeah. Because that second story is what kind of made me like the whole episode. First one I didn't really care much for, and then when they showed the little monster at the end, I was like, yeah, I'm not impressed with that at all. But that episode with her, I found creepy, and she was so well put together for a kid. Because if I saw my little figurines and they go, they're actually, every time she looks up, they're in a different thing in fear, and you see a little head with little smears of blood on there. And she doesn't say anything to her parents. She's like, can we go to the store? I need to buy a policeman to put in here, and that's all she did. And she would, it was just the stuff that she was doing. She's like, okay, I'm trying to protect the Smith family. And so I'm gonna get the policeman. And in the policeman figurine, we see what happens to him. And so can I get a priest, please? To perform an exorcism for this house. And, we don't have that, so we're gonna give you this, and that person ended up dead. But how she remained, she was scared, but I'm still sleeping in my own room. It's like, to that, it was like, can we get rid of this? I don't need this dollhouse anymore. It can go, I just really, it amused me, but it also was like, it was, even though I watched it like a few days ago, sometimes I think it's like, oh gosh, creepy for that kid. And I remember Barbie dolls, I didn't have, my aunt gave me like one of those porcelain doll things, right? And I remember she gave it to me, and I remember looking at it, and I put it in a box and put it underneath my bed, because I was like, I do not like dolls that look like this. Barbie dolls have no real character, but those kind of figurines, like, that just creeps. Dolls creep me out, and figurines are not really, that's in the doll family. All that is like, no, I don't want that in my house. So overall, I did enjoy it. I really wasn't expecting to, but the first episode, and I did watch, like I said, the second episode, probably the third. It was something amusing. I'm not saying I would watch the whole season, because I'm not sure if I could just watch episode of that all together. Because even Evil, I never watched that all at one time. It was always week to week to week to week, So I'm not sure if I could watch it all the time, but it kept my interest.
Very big shock value, I think, on some of it.
Yeah. Because I really thought it was one of those things that it keeps your interest. And it was some of them, to me, out of the 2 episodes, so that's like 4 different stories. The one with the head of house thing, that was the one to me that was, I guess, stayed with me the longest.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So, Brian, how you feel about it?
No, thanks. Yeah, I was, so the whole, I'm okay with the whole, let's make a show out, or a movie, or a series out of a comic book, and let's pull it directly out of the comic book pages. But I just think that the execution of this was just not great. And maybe it's because it was the first episode, the first couple of episodes, maybe it gets better. But I didn't like the Crypt Keeper type guy just giggling all the time. The Crypt Keeper for Tales from the Crypt actually introduced the stories. And even in the comic book for the Creepshow, that first page, he's introducing the story. Like, there's an intro panel where he has dialogue, and they didn't do voiceover for that panel, but then they started doing voiceover for the rest of it and sound effects and things, but they didn't do voiceover for that thing. So I just think the execution just falls really flat for me. And I just did not like, I guess I didn't like the stories. And the whole time we're talking, I'm racking my brain trying to think about what the fourth story was, because I remember one of the stories from the second episode, but I couldn't remember the other one until just now. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's why I couldn't remember it, because it wasn't that great. I didn't like that one the most. But the other thing with these is, as I was watching them, I'm like, these are just like, who is this written for? Who is this dialogue written for? Is this written for little kids? Is that why this is so stilted, and weird? And then, but it can't be, because they're cursing all over the place. I mean, it's just like, this is just, I just didn't get it. It wasn't great for me. I don't think I'll be watching any more of them at all. That little, like, one other, the puppet for the skull, for the I don't know what you call him. What is he called?
The head.
The Crypt Keeper?
The Crypt Keeper guy.
Okay, yeah.
Him.
Yeah.
It just looks like a puppet. It's just you suspend disbelief when you're looking at a Muppet or the actual Crypt Keeper or any of those other things, but this just looked, no, I just did not look good to me.
It not having dialogue or say anything probably didn't help either. So
maybe.
But I think that might be why the production of it made me also think that this was done like in the 1980s. I thought I was like, late 80s, early 90s, around the time the Crypt Keeper came out. I thought that's what it was until I actually saw the little girl. And I realized she's still a little girl. So that was supposed to be recent.
Right.
Yeah. And so thinking of that would, and I guess maybe it's the nostalgia to me of the Crypt Keeper kind of a thing. And not being, too scared to watch it when I was a kid, but it will do now. But I can tell, but the production value, because I thought it was the 80s, that kind of thing, especially that first one. The first one, the gray matter and the monster, and I was like, what is that? That, and then like later on when you see the werewolves.
The werewolves.
But not the werewolves.
The werewolf.
The one, the guy I was talking about, I guess his little alter ego Bob, who's killing folks.
Yes.
Was it Bob? But
the little monkey thing.
Yeah. And again,
that was the most memorable thing. That was like, actually, that story to me was more original and interesting.
So I'm going to say what I think.
What do you think?
We're kind of beating around the bush on here. So we watched the Aldis of the Crypts. In other words, like this felt like I felt Tales from the Crypt was the deal, because I asked her, I was like, how did they make this? Like, who was cheating off who? Something, and I loved Tales from the Crypt when I was younger. I was actually scared of it. And so I thought, oh, well, this looks interesting. But to your point, Stacey and Brian, everything you mentioned it was very second-handy, kind of, it was almost there, but not quite, It tastes like Thomas Bagels, but it's really, Thompson Bagels or something or whatever. So that's kind of how I felt watching this. Like it was obviously not. It's funny, Brian, that you mentioned this though, because the one thing I thought is I actually would have preferred to see this in the cartoon version, in the drawing version, the graphic story version.
Yeah. Because
I thought that could have been pulled out really, really neat. And you know how we always say we're going to watch 2 episodes to, really give it a chance. This is one of the cases where I actually thought the first 2 episodes were better than the second 2 episodes, or I guess the first episode's 2 stories were better than the second 2 to me.
Yeah.
And I thought it was really interesting how you had the first one was a more scary kind of graphic type of horror, where the second one I think was just more mind play than anything. So I thought the 2 of them were actually kind of interesting, and they kind of were opposite of each other. When we got into the Corey and I busted out laughing because Corey used to get scared. I don't know if he's still scared of the werewolf in Paris or London, wherever it was.
Werewolf in London.
Oh, gosh. And it's not the werewolf that's so scary. It's your friend Fred, right? Is his name Fred?
Well, it's both. It's his friend Fred, but it's really, for me, the transformation, the first time he transforms. Yeah. That's what made it so scary to me.
Sorry, Dana, go ahead. Keep going.
Oh, no, you're fine. So we're thinking, okay, if you're happened. And there's absolutely no transformation whatsoever. And I'm mad that one guy gets a werewolf, the other 2 look like rabid dogs. Like, they don't even look the same. I was just, so again, I just was like,
afford to do everybody the same.
Look, we got one outfit, the rest of y'all wearing trash.
Yeah, one outfit, and you do your transformation via cartoons, the little strip thing to show them.
Yeah, but Stacey, if they made them all the same, they could have saved some money on this costume.
Oh, that's right.
True.
They could have been in the same scene together.
Exactly.
That means more time and more days. They only had so much. They could only pay for the set for so long.
Actually, if they're wearing the same thing, it could have been one actor. They could have sent the other 2 people home and just had him play 3 parts. I mean, hello.
Okay.
Orphan Black.
So just to butt in here what David's talking about. So since we're still talking about this whole show, I will say that what it was that happened in the second episode, because I only mentioned what happened in the first. So in the second episode, we had 2 short stories: The Bad Wolf Down and The Finger. And The Bad Wolf Down takes place in World War II with Nazis and American soldiers, and basically it's all about werewolves. So a woman's captured, she turns the Americans into werewolves, and then they go and they kill the Nazis. And then the second one was The Finger, where this guy finds a finger on the street, a severed finger, and decides to take it home, and he it basically turns into an alien. Like, why? Why did he do that?
It grows himself into a killing alien monkey monster.
Yeah.
Who sleeps in his freezer.
What's it called? The super ego, the id? What is it? Is it because it's really something that?
Oh my gosh, Stacey, you went deep with it. Okay.
His name was Bob. That's all I know.
No, but I'm just saying because the things was killed were the people that just wanted to get the finger to. So yeah. I mean, that's who he went after. The little Bob went after because went after the ex-wife.
That's true.
The kids,
the bill collectors,
the bill collectors,
the adult children of the ex-wife. Yeah. Bill collector, dude. Even the lady who the bill collector, and it's like, dude, she's just doing a job.
Yeah. And we never saw how he killed them. We never saw how he killed anybody. Again, budget issues, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I know, Brian, you thought that was a novel idea, and maybe, but I just thought it got kind of silly on me. Like,
oh yeah, totally silly.
I didn't like it. I was like, where are we going with this? Like the first episodes, I'm like, okay, I did not like the military one. It was just, again, like we talked about, it was hokey. But the fourth one, I was just like, oh, okay. Like, it kind of changed my thoughts about the show. But I mean, I think if I'm honest with Tales from the Crypt, which I liked, there's some episodes that were good and I enjoyed, and some did suck. So I think that is part of giving you these stories in a short 15, 20-minute episode. Some of them aren't going to be good. I just thought, wow, these may not have been the 2 that I used in my second episode.
The better part of Tales from the Crypt, though, too, also was the Crypt Keeper in that, where he actually had personality.
Yeah.
And there was humor that came from him, and they also added more humor in those episodes than just being strange and gory or whatever, you know.
And
Yeah,
he had that
'cause
Freddy Krueger humor. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
No, I was just gonna say part of that the creepy host just goes back to all of the creepy hosts that used to do like the creature feature things on local TV and those
Like
kinds of things.
Elvira.
Elvira, right,
Yeah,
and all that. So that personality is part of the creep show kind of thing, or the creep show thing, not this creep show thing. But but that's what it feels like is missing and almost there. But
Yeah.
I'll say this. In an anthology series, not every episode or every little short story is going to be perfect.
Mhm.
And so these don't really take a whole lot of your time or brain power or anything to watch or enjoy, right? So, sometimes you gotta kind of watch some bad stuff to know how good the good stuff is.
Yeah, that's a
True.
good point.
That's true. That's very true.
That's a very good
You
point.
gotta be in some bad relationships. You learn to appreciate the good ones.
Hopefully not too many, but yeah, I don't think I'll watch very many more of these. I think I would go back over and look up some tales, even original Tales from the Crypts instead. That's what I would recommend doing. Yeah.
So I think Corey said he couldn't find them. Right? Is that what you said, Corey? Because that's what
They're
I
available on
did.
DVD. They haven't released them on any streaming platforms yet. HBO still owns that content, so I'm waiting for HBO to just release it on their stream. I'm surprised that they haven't done it because there's several big marquee shows that you knew were on HBO, like Sopranos or Sex and the City or whatever that they put out there. I would think that this would be one of those shows that people are hounding for, It was like in the 80s. It was from 89 to 96.
I wonder if it's a conversion issue. It'd
Maybe.
be interesting to see what's going on.
But
hey,
you know
if
what?
what's going on with that, put it in the comments.
I also think in those shows, though, too, there was heavy music. There was a lot of music in there. So it could be a music rights issue as well, licensing issue.
Yeah.
That's what
That could
happened
be a
with the Wonder
problem.
Years and why we didn't see it for such a long time.
They might. I wonder, so even the conversion issue, if they can't get the rights,
Yeah.
if they have the ability to do versions with different music, depends on how those editors dealt with those final edits.
I would love to.
They squished all the music together and made it impossible.
I would love to dive into that. Stacey, were you trying to say something?
No, not really.
You sure?
I like your
At
Christmas
this
tree.
point, y'all been talking. I just forgot what I need to say. So it's like it wasn't that important, obviously.
Your Christmas tree is cute.
So you
Stacey, your little Christmas tree.
it's actually a Halloween.
Oh,
I
it
don't
looks
say
cute.
Halloween. This
Okay,
tree.
sorry.
It's got a witch's hat on top of it.
It's cute.
Why, thank you. It was a gift from my friend Marcy.
Okay. How was I able to guess that? I didn't get to say it, but I had a feeling that you were very cute.
What's interesting too is we were talking. What I was talking about at the beginning of some of the stars that were in the first episode with Giancarlo Esposito and Tobin Bell. I'm scrolling through Wikipedia right now, looking at the show, and apparently Kid Cudi, who's a rapper, was one of the soldiers in Bad Wolf Down. DJ Qualls was the guy who played Clark, who had the finger. He was from Road Trip.
He's also in Supernatural too.
Supernatural, yeah. And then you have apparently Big Boy is in an episode. David Arquette is in an episode. So there's, I guess they just got people to just show up and do these short stories. Kiefer Sutherland, this is interesting. I might watch it just to see what happens.
Yeah, they can choose some episodes with the names in there.
Yeah. I you're right, Brian. Not everyone is gonna have great stories along the way, but it'd be something interesting to watch, maybe in the background or something. But I don't know.
You would see who produced it or created it, because somebody's like, "Yo, hey, can you come in and do this for a day?"
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. I will also well, I'll say that a little bit later. But okay. So does anybody recommend Creepshow? And would you or will you continue to watch the rest of this season or any of those? They've had 3 seasons. What do you think?
Are we allowed to do thumbs ups and thumbs down?
Really, 3 seasons?
Sure. Yeah, they're on the 3rd season right now, and it's the last episode is going to be on the 28th of October of this year.
So it might get better.
Yeah, I mean,
Evil
3
had 2
versus
seasons.
maybe.
Evil had 2
I didn't really-
seasons. I assume it got better. So maybe this got better too. You know,
Now,
there's a following.
I will say the seasons are short though, but because there's 2
how
stories,
short?
but there's 2 stories in each episode, so you know, it feels longer because of 2 stories. But
So how many episodes is the season? Just wondering.
so the first season has 6, the second season has 5, and the third season has 6. So 12 stories.
Okay,
9.
that's one
stories.
episode. That's
Just like-
one season of shows. That's a ripoff. That's
It
one
is
season.
one season.
What is this, England?
Well, we were talking at the beginning before the podcast how there's so many short seasons of shows nowadays, you know. So
But I mean, I know we're talking about our shows here, but when I watch those English shows and they're like 4 episodes long, they pack a whole lot in those 4 episodes. To me, they do. I'm sorry, Brian, but to me, they do.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, you're right. Because the Derby, what is it? The Derby Girls or whatever that one?
Derby Girls,
Derby Girls.
Yeah,
Yeah, they do pack a lot in those. Seasons.
Dairy Girls. Are you talking about
Dairy,
the
Dairy.
Irish girls? Dairy
Yeah,
Girls.
yeah.
okay.
I
So again,
I was gonna say, Corey. Okay, so I would recommend
okay.
during the month of October to sure, absolutely watch it. I mean, it's fun. It's you know what you're getting into. It's only like 15-minute little episodes here and there. You know, we're not expecting, like we've said before, with some stuff, Oscar-worthy things here, but I think it's cute little short stories. I mean, I personally probably give it a 3. I'm glad I saw it. It was fine. You know, not much really to say about it other than that. But I don't think you'll walk away wishing you had your time back. You know, you'll just say, oh, okay.
That happens.
You know? Yeah. And again, I think like I would actually watch more, even though the second episode I did not like. Like if I had to rate that, I'd probably rate it 1.5, 2, maybe top. No, 1.5. Anyway, but I wouldn't let that keep me from maybe watching another episode because again, I know they're beyond. I mean, you know, we talk about stuff being episodic, but this is even beyond this. These are total complete stories wrapped up in themselves that have nothing to do with the story before so far. So I would give it another chance to be good.
I'd agree with that. I'd probably
Same here.
yeah, same rating as what you said, Dana, like 3 stars. You know, they're very throwaway, I think. And again, like if you're a fan of Tales from the Crypt, I would say definitely check it out. And you know, look, I've said that comedy is subjective, horror is subjective, just like comedy, because there's all kinds of horror, right? And so the reason why I wanted to watch this is because when I saw the trailer, it had a very creature feature to it. And I like creature features more than I like psychological horror or anything like that. Because I'd rather have a monster scare me than it be like, you know, something mentally going on or something like that, you know, very convoluted. I want it to be something tangible that I can put my hands on to scare me or get away from. So that's why I wanted to watch it. So if you're into that creature feature type of thing, I would say give it a shot. Or if you like Tales from the Crypt, give it a shot. You know.
And
Stacey.
I would say the same thing. I would give it a 3. It wasn't anything that was, I mean, it didn't really anything that was like, oh my gosh, this is really great. But the 15 minutes that each one part, and even if good or bad, I still kept attention for it. And I told you how I'll be watching those videos, like with the tablet and all that on the laptop. So it's just, They were perfect, the perfect length for me to, oh, okay. And then I can move on to something else, So out of the 2 episodes, and I watched part of like the third one, and that's when I'm like trying to think, is there a theme going on it? I mean, in the third one, if you see part of that, it has kids in it. And I'm thinking to myself, kids are creepy. I mean, that's a good way to go for it. But that whole thing, but that last one was like, it didn't even really seem scary to me. It was something, I don't know, but I would still say it's a 3 overall. I would recommend if someone, hey, for the month, like Dana said, month of October, you want to see something like Creepshow. If you remember Tales from the Crypt, then you will probably like this, because I initially thought this was made during the same time as Tales from the Crypt because of the production value there.
Mhm.
So I would give it just a solid 3. This is good to watch during the Halloween holidays. If you don't want too much of a scare or nothing.
Yeah. I'm leaning more towards a 2 because you could totally do worse. These aren't you could just a 2, yeah. But be selective. I mean, they're like we were saying, there's no reason to have to start on the first episode. So if you're scrolling through and the icons appeal to you, or it's like, oh, there's the David Arquette episode or the Kiefer Sutherland episode, let me pick out one of those, because at least those people or other actors that you like might elevate it a little bit more for you above the material. So that's what I'm gonna do. If I watch another one, it'll probably be one of those 2, unless I see something else that jumps out and goes, watch me.
That's a very good point. I think we also should create a new rating because of what Stacy said. We should say, is this a phone or a tablet watch, or is this a big screen or home theater watch? Kind of thing.
Yeah, this is a download.
This was
definitely
on the bus, a tablet.
Watch.
Yeah. I'm waiting.
Totally.
Like, okay.
Yeah, it's a background. If you leave the room, don't come back and rewind it. It doesn't matter. Kind of.
Exactly. Yep. Exactly. I totally agree with that. All right. Well, that was our thoughts and review of the Creepshow TV series, the first 2 episodes that are now on Shudder. So if you have a Shudder subscription, please check that out. If you've seen the
Creepshow, or AMC Plus.
Or AMC Plus. Okay.
Oh, I have one other suggestion there. So I've got an Apple TV, and with the Apple TV app, it allowed me to watch both of those first 2 episodes without an AMC Plus account. So
wow, okay.
You can sample more. I mean, I was expecting to have to sign up for the free week or whatever it was.
Yeah.
But I didn't have to do that.
And you watched AMC Plus, Stacy?
Yeah, I turned that on during the Walking Dead stuff, and then it goes off.
I did not know that there was an AMC Plus. Okay, well, there's streaming shows for everything. Streaming shows.
Well, I just like to add, since we're all talking here, real quick to everybody. You may have noticed that the last
hop around.
Oops, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. So sorry. So for the last 2 episodes, you may have noticed that you haven't seen me, and it's because I'm having computer problems. So I just wanted to let everybody know that I'm going to put my Cash App down at the bottom, and if you're feeling friendly, I'm going to help a girl out. Let the cash start rolling in.
So we're putting Dana behind a paywall now. Huh?
That's right. If you want to see me, it's going to cost you.
That is too funny. Okay.
Don't worry, Stacy. I'm not going to give away, our stuff for later on, on the other app.
Okay. So with that being said, leave a comment down below if you've seen Creepshow TV series, or if you signed up for Shudder.com, or if you'd like to just drop some coins off to Dana to get her picture show.
Oh, yeah.
So
we need a wrestler, some chingle. There you go.
So we hope you guys enjoyed this episode, this podcast, and we will see you guys next time.
Bye.